Hold on, keep the faith. Something good is on the way. Keep believing, keep on shining. There's a blessing in today. Hope is rising, joy is here. We're gonna make it all the way. Come get inspired, come be lifted. It's Tammie Nichols TV.
It's a great day to be alive here on Tammie Nichols TV. One of the things that I've learned over the course of life, that God will give you an assignment. He will show you the end oftentimes, but not the middle, of all the highs, the lows, the trials, tribulation, the things you have to go through, and sometimes the waiting period. But my guest on today, author Ty Pickens, knows quite a bit about that, and he's going to share with you wisdom nuggets. He's going to share his faith journey and his leap of faith of what he's doing now in 2026. If you will, join me in welcoming our guest, author Ty Pickens. Thank you so very much for joining us on today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, absolutely. You have a new book that's out that I've seen that you have been marketing, and people literally have been reading the pages, giving comments, because we can resonate of what you're sharing with us. So let's just talk first off of, how did the title even derive?
23 Miles and Running, it depicts the story of me growing up in the Mississippi Delta. Little town called Rolling Fork, might have 3,000 people on a crowded 4th of July.
Wow.
Little tiny town, no stoplight. But I grew up in that community in poverty, where my grandmother and my 15 or so cousins, we lived with her.
Yeah.
And she made something out of nothing. We
15.
15. Because she had seven children, and all of those children had children.
Wow.
And she raised them. And so when I talk about my family and my grandmother, I think about how I didn't know what a grocery store was until I was 13 years old. Had no idea, because we lived out in the country, and we raised we grew our vegetables, and we killed our meat.
Wow.
My grandfather went hunting, and that's how I was raised. And I went on to become the first person in my family to graduate from high school.
How was that?
It was a humbling experience.
Very first.
Family first, because my mother was 15 years old when she gave birth to me, and she dropped out just to have me, and she never went back. And my father had left while she was pregnant, so this is a 15-year-old girl trying to do this by herself. And he never came back. And she met my stepdad, and this, I think, is where God comes in at. She met my stepdad when she was 9 months pregnant with me.
Wow.
And he's been in my life ever since. And he dropped out of school in the 6th grade and never learned how to read. And so I became the first person in my family to graduate high school, joined the military, served 21 years in the military.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
What branch did you?
Army.
Army, okay.
Served in the Army for 21 years, and then retired and decided to go to law school at Georgetown University Law Center.
Wait a minute. From Rolling Fork, Mississippi. First one to graduate.
Right.
High school in your family. And you dream of going to Georgetown.
Yes, my dream was to be a lawyer at some point. So I finished the military, do a couple of years at the White House, and then go to law school.
Why law school? What did you see? Was it a difference maker, or something was ignited in you? Why law school?
I grew up in a community where people that look like you and I don't have readily access to the law. Sometimes we find ourselves in court and not having the representation that people on the other side of the bench have, or that business that's suing a community member in our community has. So I said, I want to be a lawyer. I want to work in the communities just like the one that gave me so much when it had so little to give.
Yes.
So I was in law school, and that's where this book comes in at. My 2nd year of law school, a guy that knew me said, hey, there's a professor at Georgetown Law, and he publishes books. I know your story. I think you should talk to him. I said, you know what, I'm tired. Law school is hard.
Yeah.
And I'm just a kid from the Delta. I'm already struggling.
Yeah.
And somehow they convinced me to write a book during my 2nd year of law school. And I'm glad they did.
Amen.
Because I was terrified.
Yeah.
And throughout my journey, I've learned that sometimes you don't know, you can't see the next step. You can't see what's beyond that door. It's dark. But you got to have faith.
Yeah.
And you got to take that next step even though you can't see it. And that's what I did, and that's where 23 miles and running came out of. The longest I've ever run is 23 miles.
Wow.
And that book is part of the title because I think it tracks my journey from growing up poor in the Mississippi Delta to retiring from the military, serving under President Obama in the White House, completing law school, and then coming back and working for free
Yeah.
as a lawyer in some of the poorest communities in Mississippi, down in the Delta.
I'm listening to you share your story, and it's almost like your steps were ordered by
There
God.
you go. There you go.
You said I was terrified,
Oh, goodness.
but they convinced me to write a book. Served with our president, President Obama. How was that experience? Did you sometimes have to pinch yourself to say, this has to be God, this young guy from Rolling Fork, Mississippi?
The first time I pinched myself, it wasn't when I was in the White House serving under President Obama. The first time I pinched myself was when I was my first tour in combat. Early 2000s, 2004, I had been in Baghdad for 6 months. And my contract with the military expired in the middle of a war, and I had 6 months to go. I wasn't going home. You got to finish this up.
Jesus.
And so I'm serving in a combat zone without a contract with my government, right? And somebody asked me one day, they said, we go out of the gate, we go out of this wire every single day, and you look like you're not concerned. He said, do you think something's going to happen to you? And I said, no.
You were at peace.
I was at peace. I said, and at that point in time, I was questioning God. And it wasn't a small question. It was a big question. Like, do you exist? Should I believe in you? In the middle of a combat zone.
With no contract.
No contract. And over that 15 months that I served, because we had to stay there for an additional 3 months, I did not get a scratch on my body. That's when I pinched myself. At that moment, when I got on that plane and flew back to Frankfurt, Germany, and I said, I can't believe that I just got through a year and 3 months of combat, questioning God, and he still took me through what he took me through.
Wow.
That's the pinch.
So when did you know that there was a God? When you got back to Germany? Or was the revelation prior to?
Well, I was raised in the church.
Yeah, but you were questioning,
Right.
because
I was
we
questioning.
all questioning, because we get
Yeah.
in those situations where it's
We
like,
do.
if you're real, reveal yourself to me. Well, God, why am I going through this? I'm out here fighting for my country, but
Right.
I don't have a contract, which in terms means where's the finances, the money? Am I correct? You know,
The
so
moment I knew, it was after my final tour in Iraq, because I did the first tour, and I did 2 additional tours. So between 2005 and 2012, I went to combat 3 times over 36 months of war. And after my 3rd tour, I guess the Army decided to give me a break. They said, you know what, you deserve a break. Like, I think, thank you very much, I'll take it. And so they sent me to this island, island of Okinawa, Japan. And it was just me and my son, right? He was 3 years old, just me and him. And I have a deep appreciation for what women go through. Woo, it almost broke me.
Jesus.
But it's he and I living on that
God
island.
graces women
Yes.
for the birthing.
Yes. And he and I on that island together. And I took him to school one day. He had turned like 5. Took him to kindergarten. And I came back home to my apartment on the base. And I started to think about what I was going to do next. And I was in my office one day, and there was an earthquake on the island.
Wow.
An earthquake on the island of Okinawa. Buildings shook and everything.
Jesus.
The earthquake stops, and a man walks in my door. I was working on the 2nd floor. It was a Secret Service agent from Washington, D.C.
My
I
God.
never met him or anything. Knocked on my door, came in and said, I'm here to interview you for a job at the White House, working for President Obama. Just like that.
Just walks in.
And that's when I said, something's going on here. Something's right. And that, I had a deep appreciation for what my parents introduced me to when I was growing up, to the church. My dad singing in a quartet. I'm sitting in that hot church with nothing but a ceiling fan and watching him sweat behind the microphone, not realizing that something was being instilled deep inside me. You know, that years and years beyond that, I would question, but it was still there.
Yeah.
Just gnawing and being at peace inside of me. And at some point, I wasn't going to trigger it, but God was going to trigger it.
Yes.
And say, here you go. Remember.
Isn't that something?
It is. It's a fascinating feeling.
I'm listening to you, and I'm a visual learner. When you said the island shook because of the earthquake,
Yep.
it's almost like God shook things up
Yeah.
to bless you.
Mhm.
And a Secret Service agent walks in.
Walks through the door and says, I'm here to interview you to work at the White House.
What was your response when he walks in to offer this for you? Expectation, or are you saying, me? You came for me, or were you like, okay, I'm ready for this. I was built for this.
My response was, it wasn't surprise, but I understood what my parents had instilled in me through the spiritual, the religious beliefs that they'd had instilled in me over the years.
Yeah.
And understanding that what we talked about earlier is that sometimes you may not see the next step on the stairwell, but faith is it's a powerful thing.
Yes, it is.
To have faith that I can take this next step and somebody's guiding my feet. Somebody's there to stabilize it for me. And so it was just, I went home and I picked my son up after that day, and I just smiled. I sat on the couch because it made me think about all the other situations that I had been in, stranded in foreign countries and not able to speak the language, and a car just shows up and takes me to where I need to go. All of these things, it made me think about all of those things and made me realize that I'm prepared for this next journey.
Yeah. I'm listening to you again, and it's like with our previous guest, God showed up.
Yeah.
That was her book, God Showed Up, you know, not being able to speak the language, but an angel has sent a car here to take you to the next destination.
Take you to the next destination.
So you're working for President Obama. How was that experience?
That was one of the most truly just amazing experiences I've ever had. I remember my first night sleeping in the White House, because the book is titled 23 Miles and Running, My American Journey from Chopping Cotton in the Mississippi Delta to Sleeping in the White House. And so it takes me to that point. And I remember the first night that I got an opportunity to literally sleep in the White House, because I was I was a communications aide.
Okay.
So the president has a doctor, and a Secret Service guy, a cook, and a communications person that's with him 24/7.
Yeah.
And our team consisted of 5 communications people, and we rotated out. Somebody will be with them for 2 days, and we rotate out, somebody else will be with them. And it was my turn, and it was my first time doing it. And I remember just almost like floating through the White House and seeing all of this stuff. And I got to the Oval Office late one evening. Everybody had left. So for me, it was like this museum that I'm in, you know, by myself. Nobody's at work. And at night, and I'm standing outside the Oval Office, and I look through the corner of the door to the Oval Office, and I see a bust of Dr. King standing there. And I stood there and I started crying.
Yeah.
Because it made me think about Fannie Lou Hamer.
Yes.
It made me think about Medgar Evers. But more than that, it made me think about that cotton field in the Mississippi Delta. A little boy whose mother dropped out of high school at 15 years old, whose dad was illiterate, and I'm literally standing outside the door of the most powerful person on the planet. Nothing but God can say, I'm gonna take this little black boy from this dirt road in the Mississippi Delta.
Nothing but God.
And I'm gonna create a path, and I'm gonna take him through combat. I'm gonna make sure he doesn't have a scratch on his body. I'm gonna let him get lost in foreign countries. And at some point, I'm gonna plant him in the White House, outside the door of the most powerful person on the planet. And so when you say, how did it feel? It's overwhelming sometimes to understand and feel like really that somebody has your back. And it ain't my neighbor.
No.
It ain't the person down the street. It's somebody that we all know. It can be an overwhelming feeling in a really, really good way.
Yeah. That God has your back. He has you covered.
He got you. All you gotta do is take the next step. All you gotta do is walk through the door.
Yeah.
That is it. And he'll guide everything else.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that it's gonna work out the way that you want it to work out. No, it does not mean that it's gonna work out the way that you got it planned.
Yes.
It's understanding that you're part of a broader plan, that your role may be to fix somebody else's situation.
Yeah.
And then God moves you on to something else. And somebody else's role may be to fix your situation.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And
Just
he'll move you on to something else.
being in the right, I say this all the time, location, location,
Yeah.
location is everything. Even with real estate, but being timing and location.
And accepting that.
Yes.
You have to accept that, hey, this is what he's prepared for me. And I don't even understand it fully, but this is what he's asking me to do.
Yeah.
Accepting that if he's saying I need to go right, we'll go right.
Yeah.
You know? And understand that there's something there.
What was the greatest thing that you took away from being able to serve and be a servant? Because it's like you're very much humble and you always reflect, I'm a Mississippi boy.
Oh, all the way, through and through.
There's so many people who rise to the top, they elevate, and they forget their roots, where they come from. And I remember telling God when I was living in the Carolinas, and I made a pit stop in Atlanta, and I thought I was going to stay there. I was like, I'm not going back to Mississippi because I've been gone for 15 years.
Yeah.
And it may have been longer. And he said, I need you to return back to Mississippi and start your television show. And I was like, I'm not doing that. But I couldn't rest peacefully until I said yes. So that's why I said location is everything.
Yeah.
And then once my feet hit the soil back of being, there was so much peace. And it was like I went from Egypt to this magnificent place. But I told God, I said, when you bless me, I'll never forget where I come from. You'll never have to worry about me trying to be arrogant and say, oh, I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. No, you were born and raised in Starkville, Mississippi. I've just given you a platform and you were able to travel the world, which I'm blessed to be able to do that and to experience other countries and cultures. But it's very few people, and you're one that I've heard that acknowledge I'm from Mississippi.
Oh,
Because even now, I don't know if you've seen it on social media, there's a song that says I'm to Mississippi or something, but it's like TikTok and all the social, everybody is saying so many negative things, but like, there's greatness here. This is a great place. In every state, every place that I've lived, and I live in 5 different states, I often say there's a Mississippi in there. There's some rural areas. There's some poverty areas.
Right.
Mississippi is not all poverty. There's some great and beautiful places and cities in this state.
I think Mississippi gets a bad rap. We get a worse rap than we should get. People look at our history and say, well, this happened in Mississippi, and we got a racial divide in Mississippi. There's a racial divide in California.
It's everywhere.
There's a racial divide in Michigan.
Absolutely.
They have poverty in South Dakota, in Iowa. It's everywhere.
Everywhere.
But people tend to focus so much on Mississippi, and they overlook all the extraordinary people like you that we have in this state that are doing wonderful things. And you're not an anomaly. There are people all over this state that are brilliant people.
Yes.
And what brought me back is I always knew what I wanted to do. I always knew. I knew when I was serving in, as a matter of fact, that first tour, I knew for a fact that I wanted to go to law school and I was going to get the military to pay for it. I knew that. I knew that after law school, I wanted to come back to Mississippi and work in underserved and poor communities as a lawyer for free.
For free.
I knew I wasn't going to charge anybody anything because I've done 21 years. I have a pension. I have a military pension. And so that's what I've been doing. So when God said, hey, you're going to go to Washington, D.C., and you're going to work at the White House. And here's a crazy story. I was working at the White House, and I had about a year left in the military. And I knew I was about to get out, and I knew I had to make a decision. 20 years. And I said, okay, I want to go to law school. I woke up at the White House one morning. It was a Saturday morning. And I usually get in my car and I drive home. But this day I walked about 6 or 7 blocks, and I walk up to the steps of the Georgetown University Law Center. And I go inside and I sit in a room. I'm 46, 45 years old. I'm way past this college thing. And I sit in a room full of young people, 25, 23, 24 years old. And they give me this stack that's called the LSAT, the Law School Admissions Test, and some pencils. And I sit there for 8 hours and take that test.
Jesus.
And I go home and I wait on the results. I scored so low that every law school around the country that I applied to was 19. I remember the number exactly. All 19 said, no, you can't come to our school.
Wow.
And so for the next year, on Air Force One and hotels around the world and the president's motorcade, I studied.
Wow.
I studied. In Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, Frankfurt, Germany, wherever the president was going, wherever I was going, I studied that test. And the day came, and I went back, and I took that test again. And I remember it like it was yesterday. It had snowed so hard in Maryland where I was living, right outside of D.C. And I woke up one morning, and I went to the mailbox, not expecting anything, right? And he's smiling. I went to the mailbox, walked through the snow, was across the street from my townhouse I was living in with me and my wife. We had just got married.
Wow.
Just got married. And I opened the mailbox and stack of letters, and I thumb through them, and I see one. And I opened it up. And that letter said, congratulations, you have been accepted to the Georgetown University Law Center.
Wow, God, wow.
After that, every school, all 19 that had rejected me a year before, had said the same thing.
Wow.
And I think that's another one of those occasions or those moments where it said, just take the next step.
Take the next step.
And my grandmother told me something that has been with me my entire life. She said, just because you are unsuccessful does not mean you are a failure.
Say that again.
Just because you do not succeed the first time. And my grandmother was a brilliant woman. She didn't have a formal education, but she was brilliant. She could feed 15 kids with a garden right beside her house.
Yeah.
You know, and figure out how to turn 2 chickens into a meal to take care of all those kids.
Yes.
But she also was the smartest person. She said, let me explain something to you. She said, literally, the only way you failed is if you stop trying.
Yes.
She said, you can try this today on a Monday. You can try it again on a Tuesday and a Wednesday and a Thursday. You've been unsuccessful 5 straight times. If you try it on Friday, you are still not a failure. And that's something that stuck with me in my entire life.
Yes.
Where you got to keep moving. And I think she was instilling in me, believe in God, trust in God, be faithful.
Yes.
And understand what faith in something means.
Yes. You just spoke a whole word, but I want you to look into this camera and share with, because our generation, if it doesn't work the first time, the younger generation, they stop, they quit.
Yeah.
But for me, I teach my students, quitting is not an option.
It's not.
Failure is not an option.
No.
And they make this affirmation, I will succeed. I make them say it 3 times. And I said, the more you say it, you're going to believe it. I said, just keep trying. So if you will, just speak some words of wisdom to the generation of now. And then for those who are older like myself, who have kind of like, I don't know what my purpose is. It's never too late.
What I would say to the generation now, that it is in you. It is in you.
Yes.
You already have it. If you didn't have it, you wouldn't be thinking it. You wouldn't be believing it and wanting to achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve, whether you want to be an author, whether you want to be a teacher, whether you want to be a professional football player. Whatever you want to be, it's already in you. If it wasn't, you couldn't think it.
Yeah.
So don't give up. I look at it as though we just have video games, Atari, Nintendo,
Yes.
all of that, and you playing the game, and you get 3 strikes.
Pac-Man, Centipede.
And all of it. After you use up those 3 strikes, what do? You press restart. I look at being unsuccessful the same way.
Yeah.
You used up that strike, you get to press restart, and you just got a free look at the exam. Nobody.
Now you know what to expect.
You know what to expect.
Expectation.
Being unsuccessful isn't a bad thing.
Yeah.
It is a great thing as long as you keep trying, because you got a free look at the exam. Now you get to go back and take the same test over again. That's life.
Yes.
If you want to be a real estate agent and you don't pass the test the first time, you just got a free look at the exam.
Yes.
If you want to be an author and you didn't get that first chapter right, you can go back and write it again.
Right.
You got a free look at the exam.
Right.
If you want to go to law school and you failed the exam and 19 schools tell you no, you got a free look at the exam. Go do it again.
Yeah.
Because they can tell you no, but they can't stop you from continuing to try.
Absolutely, absolutely. 19, I guess you could say, denials turned you down. I'm sure you were crushed, but you became motivated.
I wasn't crushed.
That's what I said. I'm sure you were, because it's like you reversed it and you became motivated.
Tammie, this is why I wasn't crushed. I wasn't crushed because God had put me in so many situations and pulled me out of those situations. And it's a weird thing that happens to me now. I wasn't always like this. Sometimes years ago, decades ago, when I was a younger man, I'm 52 now, in my 30s, something would happen and I'd try something and it wouldn't work out.
Yeah.
And I'd get crushed. But after God walked me through a combat zone 3 times,
yeah,
where I'm watching people literally die all around me and I'm carrying people, He took me through that without one scratch on my body.
Jesus.
After he done brought a person that I had never known to a tiny island in the middle of the East China Sea and said, we're going to interview you to work at the White House. And after the President of the United States sit in the elevator with me and had a conversation with me, and this boy from a mother who never graduated high school and a father who never learned how to read, graduated from one of the top law schools in the country, when I got those 19 successes, I smiled.
Yeah.
I smile, and I do this often. And first I smile, then I start laughing. And I said, I can't believe you're about to do this again. I can't believe you're about to work this out for me again. And then I take that next step because I know what's about to happen. I know that as long as I take the next step, whether I'm successful or unsuccessful, I did the right thing by taking the next step.
Yes.
And so that's why it didn't crush me, it motivated me.
It's like you rehearsed the victories.
Yeah, yeah.
God, you have done it again.
Yep.
And I know you're about to do it, but you said something, you got to glance at the test. You knew what to study for. You knew how to prepare.
I'll tell you my most, the moment that really touched my heart is when I realized what I had been preparing for. And that's when I moved back to Mississippi. I think in 2020, I published my book in February of 2020. I graduated from, February 2019. February 2020, I graduated and I came back to Mississippi. And I started working in some of the poorest communities in this state. And I saw myself standing on sidewalks when single mothers were being evicted in the middle of COVID-19.
Yeah.
And they're crying with their babies. And I said, no, don't worry about it. Let's go. And I'm going to walk in the courthouse with you. Sign this document. Show it to the judge. And you get to stay in your house.
Amen.
And you can see the tears on their face because, and how much do I...
Awesome. Thank you again
Thank you so much for having me.
I truly appreciate you. Oh, my goodness. Wow. Anytime that I'm speechless, you know that I'm gleaning, learning, and God is speaking to me. And so as I end this broadcast, I want you to just position yourself for the blessing. One of the things that I learned from our guest just in listening to him intensely was that he said, move. Sometimes you have to try again, never give up, because God has already gone before you and put ambushment on the enemy. Well, I love you guys so very much. Thank you again for being a phenomenal guest, for sharing your stories, your book, and just enlightening those who may need assistance and help that your services are available. Well, I love you guys so very much. Thank you once again for joining Tammie Nichols TV. Until then, be blessed, and always remember, God loves you, and so do I. Be blessed.
Something good is on the way. Keep believing.